Hey all, welcome to Export Fundas. This is last week in exports. Jagat ji, very interesting last week in exports. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for tuning in. So Jagat ji, before we get into the stories, how was last week in exports?
It was rocking, it was bombing, and it was uh, every day something new happening. And there is a new definition of uncertainty now. Now the only certain thing is uncertainty.
Superb. So let's get straight into the stories. We have a lot of different stories to cover, starting with a superb story for a lot of Indian exporters. Several Indian exporters are beginning to recover duties paid during the tariff period which President Trump had imposed. Jagatji, please educate us on this. What is going on?
Yeah, so Nikhil, it's very interesting. When the duty was put within 5 days, I was doing a program in Noida with the garment companies, and they were so worried that what is going to happen. We don't have 50% margin, and this duty has come. Our business will finish, and I still have that recording. I told that this is not sustainable. This is not number one. Americans are going to pay it. You don't have to pay. They will have to pay it. And second, I told that time it will be refunded, and everybody was laughing. Right now, Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, has given the judgment that it is not tenable, and $1 billion already refunded. Right, the duties which were paid in gems jewelry, in textile sector, seafood, and few more. So it's the mechanism is very interesting, and all said and done, we must remember that in these uncertain times, it is actually the judiciary which I think will be a leveler, and that in a way is also reflected in our Indian government's confidence, uh, because the free trade, the framework of the trade, India-US trade deal is in place, but we are not rushing to sign until and unless it is giving us some competitive advantage vis-a-vis our competitors.
Mhm.
So this judgment and this kind of a thing which has happened, I mean, all these things are first time happening. It has never happened before in the world, right? So it is giving a clear direction now, and it's a good news. So everybody who was upset about it should be happy.
Yeah, and I hope and I wonder a lot of the naysayers for India and Indian exports. I wonder where they are all right now. Because you know what was surprising, Jagatji? This story actually didn't get a lot of traction, which is sad. Like, I for whatever reason, this story, many people didn't know.
I
In
know
fact,
that.
I was struggling to find this news.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So
right.
tells you about how our social media feeds are actually.
Yeah, 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 of course.
So let's move to the next story, which is India will be putting a ban on import of goods made using forced labor. I think this comes as a reaction to US's threat. I mean, Jagaji, I don't know if that's the correct reading or what this is. Can you just educate us on this?
Yeah, again, same thing. So recently, 12.5% additional duty was put by U.S. government on many countries, including India, saying that forced labor goods are there. So it is just a non-trade barrier. It is just a way, to, because they cannot put the 50% duty, which Supreme Court has given a judgment. So now this new thing has come. So, I mean, if they feel that forced labor uh, goods are coming into you, we also can do that, right? And this is the confidence, I think, which government of India has got now, that and our exports is growing actually. In spite of all this turbulence and Iran war and whatever, our exports last year grew at 24 billion to 860 billion, right? So, and even in April, it grew 11%, May 15%. So month to month, which is huge, huge. We will cross 1 trillion if we are on the path, right? So this ban on import in India, if you are saying your country considers forced labor to be uh, charged duty, then we can also do that, right? So I think it's a good decision,
Yeah.
you know.
And what sort of industry should be a bit more careful, Jagaji? Because I don't know, like there are certain industries where there is, like specifically, at least as far as I know, things like chocolate and all end up being made by countries in forced labor, right?
Yeah, I mean, not really. If you see in India, what is what is the definition of forced labor in India? I mean, there is no, what is what is the definition? I mean, eh, the logic they are using is, oh, minimum wages is low. Minimum wages is as per India's per capita income, right? As per cost of living. So, but like sectors like ready-made garments, seafood again, textiles and food products. So these are some of the sectors, but I don't think it is sustainable. It is not going to sustain. It is, I think, just these things are nowadays, with the new administration, with the current administration in US, these are the things only being used as a leverage for negotiation.
Interesting. Okay. So let's move to the next
And
story as
one more
uh,
thing. So one
yeah.
more thing I must point out, something very interesting, that the India-US framework trade deal, which is being discussed, and most of the thing, almost 95% of the things have been agreed, but we are not rushing to sign, right? Because the most important thing in that is that the how the tariff disputes will be addressed, and block the new disputes, block the new ones, because all this tariff, see, today you may sign, and after 1 day after you may say no, no more, not valid. I mean, that is the age we are living in, right? So the new such the new similar blocks should not become. That is also part of the framework. So that
So
is
can you
very good.
educate us a little bit more on what's happening on the India-US framework?
No, so that it has been agreed upon most of the things, right? But there are certain things like this: how to resolve the trade disputes, the tariff disputes. Sorry, how to resolve the tariff disputes, right?
Hmm.
So that is under discussion, and plus there are some. I think there are some products where we are not getting substantial benefit. Then what is the point to sign,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So that substantial benefit vis-a-vis competition is perhaps what is holding, and the that no new no new tariff block should come in future. Otherwise, it is
Esse-
uncertainty. It means that framework, that agreement is for 1 day,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Unless it has a clause that these type of tariff disputes will have to come in place with mutual agreement, not one
Right.
sided, not one sided.
Right. 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 Makes sense. Let's move to the next very interesting news for a lot of Indian exporters, and this is something you have to explore. So, Jagatji, India EU FTA could redirect 10 to 11 billion dollars of Indian exports from US to European market. The diversification point, which you keep bringing up all the time for a lot of exporters, I mean, if you're not taking advantage of this and something happens with the US, it's probably now your fault. What do you have to say about this, Jagatji?
Yeah, so the India EU, free trade agreement will come in place maybe next year. They are trying that it comes early, but next year January it should come in place. So because it has been signed, but every country in the EU has to pass in the parliament, right? So, but the estimates are saying that if we play it well, then we will be able to, a lot of goods which we may perhaps in future, if we do not have an agreement with US, we may get that much additional business in European Union market, right? So, so that is also something which is because today, let me tell you what I have observed, like Canada, for example, or many others, that uh, I read somewhere that Canada's non-US export has doubled. See, 70% of Canada's export used to be to US, maybe more. But
Right.
whatever was the balance, that balance has doubled. So the non-US exports has doubled. So everybody is now trying to see that how, this kind of a dependence on one huge. Of course, US is the largest market in the world. It will always remain the largest market. It is the most prosperous nation in the world, highest per capita income, democracy. All of that is true, but this uncertainty which has come in is disturbing the business everywhere. So this diversification from US, see, this is what I always used to say. I say it today also from Indian perspective. Of the $860 billion exports, 20% is to US. Now my logic is, what about 80%? Can we increase 25% of the 80%? We will cover up 20%,
Exactly.
right? So that effort, and I think India UAFTA, it is called mother of all deals.
Yeah.
Not by us, by the whole world. They say mother of all deals, not for any other reason, right? So it's going to
Prob
be game changer.
probably just to tick off Trump a little bit.
No, that's okay. I don't think it matters to him.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was just kidding. But look, I mean, as exporters, I think you will be surprised to find that EU is a hungry market. Maybe not as, I think, as big as the US, honestly, but it's an opportunity which you should definitely look at. So let's move on to the next one, which is very interesting story. India and Canada wrapped up the third round of their talks in Ottawa. Both sides want a deal concluded this year. And for Indian exporters, this is also another opportunity. Jagatji, this is something where you can educate us a lot on because you have had experience working with Indian government, Canadian government. I mean, can you just tell us where this is at?
Yeah, so Nikhil, this is the we are in discussions just like EU. We are in discussions with Canada for the free trade agreement, which is called CEPA, and under that, the see, both countries need it. Both countries, Canada needs it because it also needs to look at markets other than US, and India is a very large market for Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even if you see the small percentage of, I mean, if you see the middle class population of India,
Hmm.
that itself is a 400 plus million population, right? So
Right,
entire Canada's population is 40 million.
right,
Okay, even if you take only the middle class population of India, it is 10 times of Canada. So that's a big
right.
market. So Canada is also interested, and for India also, Canada is important because all the companies who are exporting to US, right? For them, they know that North American mindset. North American mindset is similar. Of course, Canada and US have different, culture and different way of business, but quite similar, right? So it will be easier for them to do business in Canada, and our India Canada trade potential is 5 times more than what we are doing right now, right?
Superb,
So the
superb.
potential is huge because though Canada is a small populated country, I mean 40 million, but it is very high economy. It is like, I think, $2+ trillion economy with that small population. So, and high per capita income, and a developed nation with rule of law, and our Indian diaspora is also very strong there. So everything is plus for us, and the government, the recent current government is also very friendly to India. Earlier governments, we had some challenges, right? But everything is looking good, and I think both governments are attempting that it gets signed in this year because there is an urgency on both sides.
Right, absolutely. Think Canada also is looking for a larger market to export. And I mean, another thing I think is Canada is also rich in a lot of resources like oil and
Yes, minerals,
fertilizer and
critical
all of that.
minerals,
Critical minerals.
critical
Yeah,
minerals. Yeah,
yeah. So
and
let's move to
phosphorus.
the
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So the next story, some superb news, and I hope this, news like this we get to hear a lot more, which is India UAE trade has crossed $100 billion in FY25, hitting the targets 5 years early. New target is now $200 billion. So UAE is India's second largest export destination. Jagatji, your thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. This is what is amazing. See, this is what is the power of the free trade agreement. You see, it
Right.
was signed, I think this was the first free trade agreement we signed recently, 4 years back, right?
Mm.
Amongst all the other nine which we have signed. And see the impact of that. Our trade has doubled and increased and touched 100 billion 5 years before it was expected to. This is the power. This is what the government of India is creating, an ecosystem for
Mm.
the exporters, and it is now for the entrepreneurs to gear up and see how they can take more advantage of this ecosystem created by government. And new target 200 billion. I am sure we will achieve before 2032, like this
Right.
one has come 5 years before. Certainly, if there is a proper push by the entrepreneurs and aggressiveness in the market by Indian entrepreneurs and exporters, we should touch it before 2030, right? And in any case, for years, UAE has been the second largest export destination of India after US. But something very interesting I must share. Almost 80% of what we export to UAE is re-exported by UAE to Africa and you know
So
um,
it's essentially a trade hub, right?
right, correct, and also to Europe. So that way it is a gateway. In a way, it's a gateway for India, because so
Right.
much of consumption is not there in Dubai, right? Dubai is a hardly 3.4 million population, and entire
Right.
UAE is 9 million, right? So it is all traded forward. So if Dubai grows, it means our markets all over the world are growing.
Right. Absolutely. And look, guys, I mean, even if it is a trade hub, it's still an opportunity for you to sort of diversify from the US and the uncertainty. Let's go on to the next story. India is now Argentina's sixth largest economic partner. Trade hits nearly $6 billion in 2025, and Argentina is India's top edible oil supplier and sees more room in critical minerals. Chakitji, Latin America is a huge market. We've done an episode on this in the past. Your
Correct.
thoughts?
Yeah. So you know, um, we have since ever we have been weak in our presence in Latin America, and the reason I always hear is language. The reason is distance. So distance, I don't agree. Right? Distance more. There are more distant markets where we are doing business. Language, yes, to some extent. Right? So it is very important that our ecosystem should motivate youngsters. Like nowadays, how we are saying that every youngster should know AI, right? Something basics about AI. Same way, every youngster should know one foreign language,
Hmm.
right? Portuguese, Spanish, which is more spoken there. So Argentina is sixth largest, economic partner. I mean, India has become sixth largest for Argentina. So that's good news, and $6 billion. And government of India has also a focus market program for Latin American countries. So government gives some extra support in terms of market, and the new export promotion mission is also helping. So overall, like Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Chile, these are the some of the countries which are growing very well in Latin America, and we need to uh, get more engagement with these countries. And we should small medium enterprise owners should hire one person who knows one foreign language. That's it. Doesn't matter which, French, Russian, Chinese, Japanese, Spanish, Portuguese, whatever. That will become a competitive edge.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next story. This is a controversial story. India is producing surplus ethanol and considering exports to Nepal, Bangladesh, Indonesia. I mean, I can't believe how big of a story ethanol has become. And you know what's the surprise? Before you share the export story, Jagaji, I'll say from a consumer perspective.
Yes.
I don't know if people know this. For last year or so, we've had 20% blended ethanol fuel. I don't know what's happened in the last month that everyone is talking about it. For the last year plus, we've had 20% blended ethanol fuel. So, your thoughts on this? I mean, this is a great way, at least in my opinion, to reduce our forex dependency. Asking manufacturers to work on flex fuel vehicles which can run on 100% ethanol. So, at least there's an alternative available. But your thoughts, Jagaji, on this?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I will talk more on the export side because whatever happens in India is most of it is political, right? The
Right.
opposition to it is it's not logical, right? So, but from export point of view, it's good news because most of these countries which you have mentioned, they have only 10% blending target, but they don't have ethanol, right?
Right.
So even though they have the target, but
Hmm.
the ethanol is missing, so it's an opportunity for us to export, right?
Right.
And so in Indian ethanol producers should target these countries and even more. We can also find out. It is very quick. You go to AI, you write which countries have what kind of a blending target, and you will get a list and target those markets. And of course, India itself is a big market, and it will come through because it happened because of some controversies, false allegations that my car has broke down and the company refuses to service. But then the reasons came out later that there was a water inside found. So if you put water, of course, it will be breakdown, right? So these things are, once you go deep, you come to know the real reasons. But that's okay. That's more political. But from an export point of view, I think it's an opportunity.
Okay. I just have one more comment to make on, I mean, Jagatji, if you're okay with it, on the consumer
Yeah,
side.
yeah, certainly.
So I see a lot of, reports that, okay, it is about 5% or that much percent less efficient than, a normal petrol. So what I feel a lot of these reports fail to grasp is your underlying assumption that normal petrol will be available easily is itself flawed.
Correct. Correct.
You have an
True.
understanding that the normal petrol is not going to exist. What are you going to do then? The
True.
ramp up to have such a huge production is not going to happen in a year. It's a 10-year process. So 10 years later, if you want to have flex fuel vehicles, it requires such aggressive push today. At least that's what I think. I mean, your thoughts, Jagaji?
No, no, no. It is absolutely true. In fact, see what is the situation today. Now, Iran war has restarted. Okay. Now,
Exactly.
Houthis have started attacking the other side. And if
Right.
that side closes, today petrol is $84 barrel. It will be $200.
Sir, and I'll tell you, there'll be a
Imagine.
scenario where, yeah, go ahead. You want to add one more point?
No, 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 no. Imagine what will be the situation. What you exactly said that
Yeah,
if you don't even get, what are you going to compare it with?
exactly. So the underlying assumption that fuel itself will be available is wrong. What are you going to do unless you have an
True.
alternative? I am fortunate in my house. My father owns an electric vehicle, and the scooters, we've replaced all scooters from petrol to electric. The primary reasoning was that boss, randomly electric, I just put a damn solar panel, I can charge my car. I'm not at all dependent on anyone. So I don't know what these comparisons are trying to capture. I mean, your underlying assumption is flawed, where you're assuming that okay, you'll have fuel available. Boss, fuel, even if you pay 300 bucks a liter, you're not gonna get fuel. What are you gonna do then?
Correct.
And I don't know if it'll happen now. I don't know if it'll happen 5 years later. But then the aggressive push to transition away from it. I mean, I think a lot of our ministers are facing the heat, and unfortunately, this is one of those scenarios where someone will just have to face the heat. There's nothing else you can do. It's going to be painful, but in the long term, I think people will see that this was a great decision.
Oh yeah.
So, including, exporting to Nepal, Bangladesh, Indonesia. I mean, if you build up such a massive capacity to manufacture, ethanol export itself can be a major driver of our economy. I mean, what do you think, Jagaji?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a fuel. We are a
Exactly.
fuel importing country. We can become a fuel exporting country.
Exactly. And you can see the number of countries which have become developed just by focusing on their energy exports. So
Yes, absolutely. All
maybe this
Middle
is
East.
an opportunity. Exactly. So let's go to the next story. DGFT revises traces scheme. So Jagaji, this is something which I think just a few weeks back we had done a show,
Yes.
and you had spoken about this, that you wish government does something like this, and they have. I mean, that's great. So great news for a lot of exporters. you guys know how expensive it is to get certified, but you can now get 95% reimbursement on your certification costs. I mean, you don't have any excuse now to make a bad quality product and say that, oh, certification is expensive. Jagaji, your thoughts?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So this is, this is called the preparation phase. I always say in export there are two phases: preparation and market entry. Right. So we
Right,
should be prepared first. So certification is preparation, quality testing, compliance, because that is where we as a country, India, has struggled. Our name in international market was not good. That we are not a good quality product producing country. We don't ship on time. Our packaging is poor. All of that. So now with 95% reimbursement, I mean, uh, what else anybody can expect? So that scheme uh, is, and the application has to be done directly into the portal, and it is online, and it's a DGFT portal where application has to be done. If anybody goes to DGFT portal right now, they will see it right at the top under export promotion mission, and then when they click, they will see the trace and they can apply online. So it's a very good initiative and very much needed, because at the end of the day, uh, quality is what matters. Because I'll tell you also something interesting. Uh, there are almost 70% of the new exporters in India who do not get a second order. First order, somebody, okay, trust you, okay, your sales stock is good, your marketing collaterals are good, they trust you, give you, and then they see, oh, this is not good quality, the specs are not proper, timely delivery is not there, packing is not proper. So the business stops there, right? So it is a very good incentive for the industry. And that is why I say, when we have this kind of a ecosystem being created by government and support being given, it is the entrepreneur's duty to take advantage and run with the exports market, and grow in the export market. See, I keep repeating this. So India is a 4.4 trillion dollar economy. World is a 126 trillion dollar economy. I mean,
right,
122 trillion dollar is outside India. So there is
right,
no shortage of market. The question is, are we ready? So these are
right.
the things I think government is making an attempt to make Indian companies ready.
Absolutely. Let's move to the next story, which is the India UK trade pact, the target of $100 billion of export between India and UK. Jagachi, I mean, I think this is another UAE story happening there. What do you think?
Yeah, in fact, today is very interesting day, Nikhil. 15th July. Today, India UK free trade agreement has become functional.
Yes.
Today. And today there is a flag off from Mumbai port of first shipment going under the free trade agreement documentation to UK, right? And
Wow.
$20 billion is current trade, and
Okay.
target is 100 billion by 2030, which is amazing. And I'm
Right.
sure, because of the UAE example, I'm sure we will achieve this. There is a Australia example. We have now signed with New Zealand, Oman, so many countries. So UK, I think again 2030 is the target. I think we should be able to achieve it early, and there should be sector wise targets and timeline. I think government of India now should move to a stage after free trade agreement where sector wise target should be put. That okay, if we are planning that $100 billion we will reach by 2030, what sector will contribute how much,
Right.
and in what time? Then there can also be sector wise some kind of a export promotion mission support which can be given. Like for example, steel. So in this free trade agreement with UK, steel exports is going to be benefited from India to almost, it is expected it will touch $1 billion, right? So almost 5% of the current trade will be steel business. So so that way,
Superb.
it is a lot of things are happening which are of very good advantage for the entrepreneurs in India, and we should take advantage of that.
Absolutely. So there you have it, guys. These were, of course, you can follow Export Fundas on X on a daily basis. We are trying to curate the best news stories on exports and posting about it. So do follow. We will add more and more countries and more filters in it so we can find you some very good stories. So on X, if you're watching, just follow Export Fundas. And then, of course, you can follow me and Dr. Jagat. Dr. Jagat specifically, if you're interested more in export news. And if you have any questions, just add a comment on this and we will take it up later. Thank you so much for watching. See you all next week. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Nikhil.